I'm Jim Miller, born in a Six Nation Reserve over in Canada, and grew up on a Tuscarora Reserve in Niagara Falls, and age 72.
My name is Peter Travis Cook. Most people know me in lacrosse as Travis Cook. I'm born on August 11th, 1950. I'm 73 years old. I'm from right here in Akwesasne, St. Regis Reserve. Spent most of my time here, but I also went to Lafayette High School out in outside of Syracuse. So, but I did play a little lacrosse here. I started here anyhow.
Russ George, Eel Clan, Haudenosaunee Nation, 73 years old, still learning, and played against these guys, played with these guys. We all play for the Creator.
When did you first meet each other, and how did that all come about?
I think we pretty much all met on the lacrosse floor. We never ever, socialized together because we were from different reserves, but we knew of each other going down on the field.
I think Russ and I first met each other through Russ's dad and my uncle Louis Jock, Alfie's father. Alfie's father and my mother were brother and sister, and Russ's father, Russ Sr., used to come to Akwesasne probably once a year and come down and go fishing with him, and Louis would come back and go fishing. And I met Russ probably when we were first met him when we were probably 7 or 8 years old. And then, but we didn't know each other only through fishing and through the friendship of my uncle and his dad. So we didn't play lacrosse together at all until later on in life.
And when was it when you met Jim on the floor somewhere? When do you think that happened?
Probably when I was about 16 probably 17.
Junior?
Yeah, I was like a senior in high school, and I think.
Yeah, we never had a junior program. We went from whatever at 15, 16 right into the NALA, into the men's senior league.
And what teams did the NALA have when you guys first went into it? What were the centers?
We had Onondaga, Newtown.
Yeah, Newtown,
Niagara
Tonawanda,
Falls.
Six Nations. These sometimes they'd be in, sometimes they would be out. Caughnawaga would be in it once in a while. Akwesasne always fielded a team. Syracuse, Onondaga, mostly all the reserves. The Onondaga, the Mohawks here, the Mohawks and Six Nations, Tuscarora would be in Niagara Falls. And we always had a little nucleus in Rochester, New York, that there's no reserve there, but it seems like a lot of players would congregate there, and they'd usually have a team in there or bring in talent.
What year would you have entered the NALA?
I probably went in 67 up to about 70, 71, 72. So yeah, about 7 years.
Yeah.
I think I spent about maybe three years in there, because when I turned 20, I think I started when I was 17, and then when I turned 20, I came back here and played junior lacrosse here for the St. Regis Braves. And the first year I came back after school was done, and so about mid-season I came out and I played 70 and 71 here. And we had a pretty good junior B team. We did. But
I started about 67. Because we had a little junior team. We got and played Akwesasne and Hogansburg, down to Cattaraugus. Didn't have many guys, and the senior team didn't have many guys. So at the end of practice, they said, "Come on, practice with us. Come on, practice." They beat the hell out of us, and when you're 16, you play with them. And at Onondaga, we weren't as large as these guys. We had everybody that could play played. We were the smallest.
Tuscarora was the same way. We had limited number of players, but we always brought. We had players come in from St. Catharines, and we would come in. Some would come in from Buffalo, Tonawanda, to come over and play with us because they like playing there.
Okay.
So they used to get a mix.
I don't believe that when we played there was any minor system at Onondaga. I don't know when they began their minor system, but it was not, probably in the 80s maybe. Same when I played here and I first started when I was about 12 or 13. No minor system, no, absolutely. I didn't even have a stick of my own until I was 13 when my dad got me my first stick, which is a story in itself, but I'm sure they didn't have minor lacrosse on your reserve either.
Well, we did. We had the OLA. We played in the OLA as like Bantam and midget. But then when we got older in the juvenile age, now it's all U13, U14. But when we were juveniles, the St. Catherine's program invited a line of us up there to play with them because we weren't playing anymore. And so we played juvenile up there. And then we all jumped from juvenile right into the NALA.
Yeah. How did you get your first stick?
Oh, I got my first stick basically because of pleading and begging my dad to allow me to play. Because he had played years ago and he was a substantial player himself, but he just, I have 3 older brothers, none of them played. My dad kind of dissuaded us from playing, but it was, he was very supportive of baseball. He wanted us to be baseball players or football players, and my brother, one of my oldest brothers was a hockey player and a football player, and my oldest brother was a 3-sport, but none played lacrosse. And so I was playing baseball, I got frustrated with it, and what happened was we had a very a good team, and that's because people from this community of Ganadago, the village of St. Regis, were allowed to go across and play baseball in Little League Baseball on the American side. So I lived in Canada, but my dad was an American, so I was considered, I could play without restrictions. But we brought guys over. The second year I played, we recruited guys. We came over, we won the championship because we played a lot of baseball here in the village.
Yeah.
Baseball, softball, and but I think when I turned 12 or 13, they started a lacrosse team, and all of the guys who came over, Mike Benedict, Chuggo Jacobs, were good lacrosse players. They wanted to play lacrosse, so now they depleted our team really because these guys were good baseball players, and I said I want to be with my friends, and I wasn't enjoying baseball, and I made a pact with a friend of mine, Jerry Cook, and we said let's play baseball till the All-Star game, and after the All-Star game we'll go play lacrosse. And I did. I played an All-Star game. I started playing lacrosse. My dad didn't know. I had borrowed a stick from somebody, and I played. And then over the winter, I had to beg and plead and plead. And finally, he said, "Yeah, I'll let you play." But he said, "On one condition, you've got to listen to me." No problem. So we came over and got a stick here at the factory. My father was kind of a contemporary of Frank Groundpoint, who owned the lacrosse factory, and he started it. And they sat and talked in the language, and I was looking around for sticks, and he said, "Go in that room over there." So I went into this room, I opened it, I walked in, and there had to have been 1,000 sticks in there. And I just spent about an hour, and finally I found the stick that was the one. Brought it out. My father paid $3 for it. And then I proceeded on my lacrosse journey, and that included pretty much daily instruction. He would not drill me because my dad was basically disabled, but he taught me and gave me the guidelines of being a good player, and stayed right at it, right up through the pros. I mean, when we played in the pro, my dad came up, visited, stayed with us. And he'd be,
Oh yeah, I met his dad.
Card play, Joe Cook.
but it was fun. That's how I bought my first stick.
Russ, what about you? You remember getting your first stick, or who brought you to the game? Kind of both, I guess, you know.
Well, my dad and Louie were friends. They go up and just sit and talk all the time. And we're poor. We leave the house, we won't come back till dinner time.
Yeah.
just running in the woods, whatever. And I came back one day, and in the back door, there was a stick standing next to the door. I looked at it. I went back and shooting apples with it. That went on for about 3 days. Apple juice turns an orange, so the stick was turning orange. So I finally asked my dad, I said, whose stick is that back there? He says, must be yours, you're the one who got all apples. I got my stick, but we were athletes. Travis and I were both athletes. We were multi-sport athletes. So we took a lot from what we learned in the other sports to play lacrosse. Travis is a very intelligent man. I probably got him by a few points. And
That makes you more intelligent.
really? And when we played, first we had a little team getting together, and then we go to Akwesasne, and it must have been 15. Remember seeing Trav out there, and these guys that played, and we were talking, one of those guys got a mustache. We were like, And then, grew friends, and then Trav came down to Lafayette, and as the world of lacrosse knows, Travis got this hell of a shot, underhand. And the Caucasian community start calling it Wahoo shot. I would think back, it's probably more out of respect because none of them could do it.
What was the name?
A Wahoo shot, they call it, because it's an Indian.
Okay.
The ball would literally go like this. Halfway through, that thing flattens out like this. That's how much spin was on there. Can't do that now with the plastic stuff that they have. But when we played, we're 16, 17 years old, go to Niagara Falls, play against Jimmy. Travis played here, it brought our community together.
Yeah.
We used to play in the Warmore on Sunday night. There wasn't a soul on that reservation that night. Everybody's down Warmore down there. And
Where was that located exactly?
downtown
In
Syracuse,
Syracuse, yeah.
it was, you meet friends that last for a lifetime. You also meet enemies that last for a lifetime. And,
Causes a connection.
it's
Only on the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the Creator's way of teaching us how to respect each other, how to live with each other. And through lacrosse, you learn all that. I'm grateful.
Like, it sounds like the NALA kind of tapered off a little bit for you, and you're kind of waiting for the pro league almost without knowing it was coming.
Well,
74,
it
75.
still went on, the NALA still went on. We always had a home base to go back to. But, they were already, Russ was already there, and you were just coming in, and then I was just finishing up my season at RIT, and I went down to Rochester to ask, to see if they wanted any players there. I walked out.
The Griffins?
The Griffins, yeah, and I
Yeah.
went up to Kells, I asked him, and he goes, nah, I don't want anybody. So I said, okay, fine. He didn't give me a tryout, so I said, and then I got a call, I don't know from who, but to come down to Syracuse for an open tryout.
The Smash? Was that?
I don't know
No,
who.
We're Stingers.
No, the Stingers.
Stingers.
Yeah.
Stingers. Oh, Stingers.
So they were trying to establish their team, so I went down there, and I was pretty much a walk-on and walked right into the lineup.
So you were there at 74, both of you were
We
there.
were all there in '74.
Oh, you all were there. But
Yeah.
what was
He
going
came a
on?
little bit later in 74.
Yeah.
But 73, there wasn't a pro
No.
league then, right?
No.
There was that
74
one
was
league
for
in
sure.
like 68 that lasted like a year or something.
Yeah,
Detroit
Detroit,
had a
that
team.
one, that was, I think Gaylord was big in that, Gaylord Paulus.
He was the league.
You all played for the same team in 74? Is
Yeah,
that?
Yeah,
Syracuse
yeah.
Stingers, yeah.
Okay. And that was, Syracuse was just 1 year that it went?
1 year.
Just one
And then
year.
we were sold and shipped up to Quebec.
What was that like for you? Like French, French speaking? It was Quebec, the Caribou or the?
Yeah, the Caribou.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was fabulous. I mean, I think we enjoyed, I can tell you that I'm deeply indebted to Syracuse because they drafted myself, they drafted Russ. We got
I was a
Jimmy,
walk-on.
but we were the native guys. We were the local guys who played in the NALA, which Syracuse was, and Onondaga was a part of. So they were familiar with us, and we were like the hometown reps. So it was good. I mean, we were very, I don't know, we just didn't gel well as a team, and it was frustrating because I think the expectations from the local people were that, oh, these guys are going to go crazy on the, well, no, it didn't happen. It's a real team game. It was totally different lacrosse than we had ever played. And it took us a little while to kind of get familiarized and comfortable with the new systems. And again, I think other players had more, came with more notoriety than we did. They didn't know who we were and
Yeah,
how we played. And
We were a mix because we had we had the West Coast, we had the OLA, all the guys up and around Toronto, and then us, and we were one of the few teams that had any native mix to it, and they had to get used to us, and we had to get used to them. And when we finally gelled, we gelled. You know,
I think they loved us because one thing about playing in the native leagues, it was rough. It was a tough game. But that's part of the game.
yeah.
You know, if you don't go out there if you're not ready to play. And it was a tough game, but again, we left as friends. There was respect. It was give and take. You go up one end, you come back the other end. You're just mixing it all the time. So it was but we really, I think Syracuse did us a good favor by getting us together. And then when we went to Quebec City, again, we were together. And it was even better because we only won 13, I think we won 13 games out of 40. We lost 26 and we had one tie. We started out with 10 straight losses in the season. We were out of...
That's in Quebec?
No, this is out of in
Syracuse.
Syracuse.
Oh, Syracuse.
We were basically out of the playoffs after the first month or so. So it was depressing. But we got through it and learned who the players were in the league. And when we got to Quebec, we were ready. And the fans just were rabid. You know, they opened the doors. I can remember we had training camp in Drummondville, Quebec. And, you know, that's where Marcel Dion is from, the famous Detroit Red Wing hockey player. And it was out in the middle of nowhere. I'd never been there before, but we were just there playing lacrosse, and we established ourselves there. You know what I mean? We had the confidence of spending 1 year, and we were ready to play.
I just got one question on Syracuse before jumping into Quebec. Who was like the coach and who was like the general manager while you were there in '74?
That was a go-around. When they first started, it was supposed to be Richie Moran coming in, wasn't it?
Yeah, Richie
And
Moran.
he never made it. So the team was in sort of a little bit of chaos getting the coach set up. And finally, when we got Mito Martinello come in, so from Windsor, and he bought a bunch of his players from Windsor in, we had to understand him and get the game going, and that took us some time right there, getting a system down.
Was there a general manager above him?
I think, I'm not sure the general manager, but I know the owners were the Wells brothers. But I don't know who really was pulling the strings. Jim Higgs was actually the playing coach, waiting for Richie Moran to come in. But Richie never came in, and Jimmy Higgs coached for the
He was
first,
player coach, right?
yeah, but the first 6 or
Was
7 or 8
Richie
games.
thinking of leaving Cornell?
Well, I think
Just for the summer to play,
During
to
summer.
coach.
Okay.
But I don't think Cornell allowed him to.
so. Anyhow, it worked out that.
Okay.
I think we were just frustrated, and I think Jimmy was frustrated because he couldn't really corral us or just kind of get us moving in the right
Because
direction.
we could play with anybody in that league. We gave every team in that league fits, but we just couldn't close the game up. And that's how
Missing
we.
that one Peace.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
And then finally, when Mito comes in, it ended our losing streak because we tied. We tied a game against Rochester. And I tell you, that was, that stopped it. Then we lost a couple more, and then we started
Winning a bit.
winning, yeah. And, you know, it was a great feeling. But it just, being out of the playoffs, I just was so bummed, you know, because I had these expectations that we were going to really do well, and we were here in our home community. But at least they got us on the map, and then we had to make it to Quebec City. And when we went there, we had a clean slate, and we were able to write our own story, in which we proceeded to do.
And what were the crowds like in Syracuse? Like not big enough?
When the Onondaga Nation team played there, we were playing for like 2,500 people. And they seen that as the crowd. But what happened when the Stingers came together, it was so many different individuals.
Yeah.
It didn't fit like this, it didn't fit like this. You could make it competitive, but you couldn't make it a winner. And they tried the fighting aspect, they tried different things, and we're out of it. And then it's my opinion that we got to know the guys a little better. But I think when we went to Drummondville, we learned to laugh at each other, party it up a little. But I think we all came together in Drummondville. Because you know, this is it. This is where you go. We didn't have training camp very much in Syracuse. And we're in Drummondville, and you get hurt, and you think you're going home. I was almost sent home in Drummondville.
Yeah, we were doing triple sessions.
Huh? Yeah, I heard a number of like Jim Bishop would run those kind of things, right? Wherever he
Ours
was.
weren't as savage as that, but it was tough. It was a lot of running. We had to get up first thing, go out for about a 2-mile run, then come back and have breakfast, relax a little bit, then
A
we're
little
practicing.
breakfast. It wasn't
Practicing
nothing
in the
great.
morning, and then practicing later in the afternoon. But it was the exciting part was that we were veterans now. You know, we'd had 1 year in the league, and we knew what was happening. I can remember, I want to tell this one story where it was I remember the coach, it was towards the end of the training camp, and we were getting ready to scrimmage, and our coach calls us in, and he calls in us three, and he called in Terry Sanderson, and he called in, I believe, Glenn Mueller. And he said, guys, I got to make some cuts today. He said, I'm going to put you together on a line. He says, I want you to get rough because I got to make some cuts. I got to see who wants to play, who wants to make this
We want
team.
to find the players.
So he put us together. We had fun. We knocked guys around, but you know what I mean? That's what it took. I mean, you have to know who you can count on and who's marginal. And those players
we had more fights in training camp trying to establish a team, and we had what 60 guys there?
There was
And they were trying to fight their way onto the team. I mean, there was a couple of guys who
Yeah.
were willing to drop the gloves at
But
anything.
they knew who to fight, though. They weren't looking around for either of these two guys, I can tell you that.
The paycheck was like $12,000 for the season, something like that. I've heard
In there.
Yeah.
in that realm, and you had some West Coast, really good West Coast players join you, right?
Oh yeah, we had a good nucleus come out of Syracuse, and I think that's what we carried over to Quebec.
And nice core.
Yeah, and then we filled out the lineup with some rookies and some names, and yeah.
We were blessed. We were
Yeah.
blessed with the young crop that came from Junior A to our league. To our team. We drafted Dave Durante. We got Brian Evans. We got Murray Cocker.
Yeah.
We got some substantial youth and who were very, very, they were
Was
really
Pat
fun.
Was Pat Differ on your team?
That was already on.
He
the
was
team.
already
That's
on.
right,
He was
he came
already
from
on. He was on our
Syracuse.
team.
Oh, okay, he came from.
But they were like young kids. And, we had to break them in and show them the ropes a little bit. But I'll tell you what, Jim had to carry 2 of those guys.
Well,
Or 3 of them.
Granny was new too.
3 of them.
So I got all the rookies on my line,
Yeah.
and it's my job to carry them along, get them going.
You must
And
have done a
that was
good
a
job,
score.
Jim. Yeah.
Our line was a scoring machine.
Not only that, but to protect them. They needed somebody. And I played with him the whole first year,
Yeah.
and that's what I felt like. Man, I can do what I want. I got Jimmy on my side. And then the second year, I didn't get to play with Jim. I couldn't believe it. You know, we had spent the first whole year together, but I got to put on Russ's line,
Yeah,
which
Mito
was the
put
same.
these lines together, and we pretty much ran with these lines too all year, and it gelled.
Russ, were you a protector as well? Or like Travis had a protector in Jim?
He was a punisher.
He was a
In the game of lacrosse, the score starts 0-0. My philosophy is my job to keep that thing 0. I own the freaking middle.
Okay, that was your spot.
There are many Canadians that like Russ George to this day. That's the truth.
That's just the way it was. And I could tell you, when we got rolling, and you know, for anyone's success, there's got to be someone else has to falter. I think we had to win. We won 6 out of our last 8 games. Philadelphia lost their last 8 games in a row.
That's how we got into the
And
playoffs.
that's how we got into the playoffs. We won 6 out of our last 8. We squeaked in 4th place, but we were just a machine. I think we
You had
really
momentum at that.
we
yeah.
got the momentum, but the confidence, and we'd never won one game in Montreal, and we proceeded to change that over the course of the playoffs. But the first round, we had to play Long Island, who was far and away the runaway league champions as far as points are concerned.
And we beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, we physically, we just really were physical, and
Yeah.
I think, you know, once one line is doing it, yeah, all are going to do it. And of course, these
Set
guys,
the tone. Set the tone. Yeah.
yeah, it was just, it was fabulous, and we had to guard, you know, the top lines. You know that we matched lines. We'd match up against Dave.
Was it Wilfong?
Doug
Dave
Hayes.
Wilfong, Doug Hayes. Those guys were
Yeah,
scorers.
you had to single them out and
Yeah,
guard them.
Guard 'em,
Doug
really,
was a
really
big
tight.
man.
Oh, he
Yeah.
was a freight train.
That's what I always called him, a freight
Yeah,
train. Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, they split them halfway through the playoffs. They had to pull them apart. They weren't scoring.
But what I remember was going into the playoffs, we just made the playoffs, and then we had a closed-door meeting, no coaches. And we basically said, we're here, what are we gonna do? And we all decided as a team, Jimmy Higgs was our leader, and he said, I want to do this. So we all got together and said, okay, let's give it our best. And every game, we
Showed up.
drew on that.
What were the crowds like up in Quebec?
Oh, big.
Yeah.
Like, where did you play? Like, what was the?
The Coliseum?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that. So that's what 15 or 16?
14, 15.
14, 15?
Yeah.
I think it seated 14,000.
Yeah, we filled it up a few times.
No, it seated only 10,000. There was standing room.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
There were people jammed in there, and but it was very entertaining. But they loved it. For not having lacrosse in their immediate vicinity, those people just related it
Yeah.
so closely to hockey. They loved it, and they loved us. They really were behind us, and you know
They
we were-
promote it well too. I remember on
Yeah.
television, remember they used to get all of the commercials coming
Yeah,
out?
they look brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, we're playing that.
And Quebec City is a beautiful city.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was great.
So it must have been great
The
to,
people were just
Be up there.
fabulous. I think
Especially the women.
You know, the next year, I wish that we would have had a chance to come back and defend the title that we won. Of course, that didn't happen, but, you know, we were committed to learning how to speak French so we could be more engaged with the community and stuff.
Yeah, because we couldn't take press interviews, because they wanted French. We had like 2 or 3 players that could speak French,
It was tough.
and
You know, when we first got
Like the
our
New York Yankees now.
when we first got our summer cottage, I mean, we didn't want to stay in the city of Quebec. We said, let's find a place of our own. So we waited. We stayed in the motel that they provided for us. We stayed in. They finally said, look, you got till Friday to get out.
Get a
That's
place,
about
yeah.
what they said. So this is like Tuesday. We didn't do anything Monday. Tuesday we went out, and so we were looking in the city, and this is useless. So we said, we'll go in earnest tomorrow. So the next day we went out. Which way are we going? I don't know, get on the highway. So we get on the highway, start driving. We drove about maybe 15 or 20 miles outside the city. We better turn around. Well, get off here. So we got off. Well, let's just keep going up that way. So we just kept going. Lo and behold, we drove another maybe 10 miles and we came in and all of a sudden, and there's very, very sporadic housing. I mean, there's a house here, half a mile down the road, there's another house. It's just woods on either side. We finally get there and we start seeing signs of life. so we get going and we see this big Indian wigwam. And we're going, look at that.
It's a sign.
So we drove by. It was, and we see it's a motel and a hotel.
And a restaurant.
Yeah, and a restaurant and a bar. And so we go, hey, let's keep going. So we kept going another 2 miles or so. We crossed the river. Hey, we can fish here. We kept going.
Everything.
And we drive up, and there's a hourglass-shaped lake. And we go, and there's a beach. And
It was a summer resort for Quebec City.
We've got to find something. So we're trying to get somebody to
Speak the language.
We couldn't speak it. We didn't know French, so we finally got a guy, and I knew the most French because I was born here in Quebec and went to school in Quebec. So I'm going, excusez, monsieur, alloué, cottage. I mean, I know what I was saying. But anyhow, the guy goes, I speak English. Oh my God, what a breath of fresh air. He says, who are you? And we had our player cards with our name and the Caribou. We gave it to the guy. He goes, oh yeah, great. He says, what you doing here? I said, well, we're looking for a place to rent for the summer. He said, I know where you go. Turn around, go right back the way you came in. When you get down the road a little bit, you notice that there was a store and there was a laundromat and a hot dog stand. He said, there's a guy there and he owns a cottage right there. So he said, tell him Bob Ford sent you. So we went over there, we got done, thank you, Bob, and we drove over and we rented this cottage from him. $500, we were there for 5 months.
For the whole thing.
For this $33 each for a month.
You're in heaven.
Fully furnished.
You're in
Oh
heaven.
my God, we were so lucky.
How far were you from practices? And stuff?
Probably about 20 miles, 20,
Yeah.
20 a little over
Not
20
bad.
miles.
Yeah.
No
It
problem.
wasn't bad because a lot of the other guys went up to the ski resort. What was that?
Mont Saint Anne.
Mont Saint Anne.
Yeah.
And they had chalets
Chalets.
because it's summertime and they were all over. They were renting up there.
But they were paying big bucks for
Yeah.
theirs.
Yes.
No, we got away. So, but again, here's another point, Jim. We're 3 Indian guys. We were together. I think this is what really bonded us.
Yeah.
But also provided what we need, that family. You know, my girlfriend would come up every so often. My dad would come up.
Lots of visitors over there.
Yeah.
Jim's parents came up and visited.
Sounds like a place
Russ.
people would
Oh,
want to
it
come
was-
up to.
It was so wonderful.
It's funny though how we found the place. We went to that place, little motel with the wigwam. We walked in there. We said, "Well, let's get a beer and talk about this." So we sat down, and that was Bernie was the
Right.
guy's name. And he's trying talking in French, and Bernie goes, "I can speak English," you know?
Another guy we found doing.
And he goes, "I'll set you up." He said, "You can stay here." What was it, $10 a night? Or,
Something like that.
yeah,
$10 a day.
and a dinner and a meal,
3 of you in
No,
one
no.
room?
and a bar. Yeah, and gave us our own motel room.
Hold it. We had 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A room, a shower, $10 a night
Each?
each.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what did you do for fun there?
What we did for fun was basically we'd go home after practice, probably pick up a 12-pack or so, and we'd go watch, we'd go driving around exploring, and they had a softball diamond there. And we'd go watch softball, and I'll tell you, it was predominantly, I think the men played once a week, the girls played, I think, twice. So we'd go watch, and the girls play softball, we'd just laugh and have fun, just doing stuff that young men were doing. And we just, That's where we learned some French, I think.
Yeah. No, they considered us celebrities in this little village because wherever we went, you know.
Pros.
Yeah, we were the Caribou.
Yeah, and when we were staying there at the motel, and people just loved us, and we just ate it right up. And then the place at the motel, the owner's wife was a native
Loretteville.
Huron.
Yeah.
She was a Huron native, and she loved us.
Yeah.
And we loved her because there was our blood, you know,
Yeah.
there was our kinship, and oh my God.
Yeah,
this
she
is-
told her husband, take care of those boys. You know?
we had it made. We
had it
just
made.
had a great summer.
Creator
we
was
earned
looking
it.
after you.
Oh,
was.
yeah.
You're supposed to be here.
We found home.
So, on a bigger scale, like you guys claw your way into the playoffs. You beat Long Island, I guess,
Yeah.
to get there, right? Did you have any inkling that the league was not going to make it after that year, or did it feel like everything was going so well, especially where you were, you know, that you thought
We were in good shape. Montreal was in good shape. I mean, we knew some of the teams were struggling a bit, but I thought for sure they'd work something out. Maybe you get a couple more teams, but yeah, just I think what happened didn't the Olympics
Yeah.
go into Montreal?
In 76.
And that shut down Montreal because then they were all booked out. The forum was booked out. Everything, there was no place for them to have the
pulled
place.
the rug out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they were the primary backers of the whole league. They were.
I think it was excellent, you know, having them pull out really, it was just a matter of fate, you know,
Montreal.
that mattered
Yeah.
that the Olympics are coming to Montreal, and they just couldn't afford to play in a small arena that had 6,000 or 8,000 people. You know, the Forum had, you know, 16,000 seats, I think, and a couple more standing, so you could have 18,000 in there if you packed it.
Yeah.
But you know, that wasn't a problem. But you know, they had substantial crowds there. But in Quebec, I mean, it was just like
Yeah.
fabulous.
Quebec was in really good shape because we played Montreal in the finals. And for what Quebec to play Montreal,
In any sport.
the
yes.
Canadians, the Nordiques,
Yes.
Canadians are up there, Nordiques are down there.
Yeah.
But then when we went there and beat the Canadians in the final, or Quebec, what do they call them? They were in their glory.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody.
They loved it.
Quebec City was going crazy. Yeah, they finally kicked butt in Montreal.
Did you actually have a parade or anything?
Oh
Yeah. Drank the
What
beer
was
in the
that like?
car.
Like right through old Quebec, or
Oh, yeah.
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 You know, there was, I think that at the time, the population was like 200,000. And, you know, I remember reading estimates were like 75,000 people were there.
Wow.
But it was such a celebration. But, you know, when you play 60 games, that was how many games we played. 60 games.
Yeah.
Wooden sticks,
Physical.
hacking,
Yeah.
cross-checking,
I-
running the
I
middle.
prefer the term checking
Take him in.
instead of hacking.
Take him in the boards. I mean, getting taken in the boards. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just
Takes its
really,
toll.
really. But you know, we had the support going to, watching in the playoffs and looking behind and seeing Henri Richard at the games and seeing Guy Lapointe and these Serge Safar, these really high-profile athletes at theirs. And then in Quebec, you know, Marc Tardif and Réjean Houle and
John Ferguson.
John
made him-
Ferguson.
Yeah.
there was, it just felt so great, and this is something everyone, all athletes aspire to, is playing in a professional setting and winning a professional championship and
The
going
other
from the
guys,
bottom to the
the
top.
other guys
was
I've
awesome.
talked to that it's very similar feeling was the guys in Philly and what that, you know, they were on like the Mike Douglas show.
Yeah.
Right.
It's you know, like all kinds of stuff was happening.
They had the draw in
for
Philly.
in Philly, you know,
Yeah.
and that. But so was the first inkling for you when Montreal said they couldn't come in? Was that like the first inkling that something was going sideways? After, you know, at the
I
after
didn't
you won?
realize until we got a letter or a phone call from this, and now we're not doing it. You know.
Wow. When did that come?
I didn't get one, but I can tell you what happened to me. I was back at college, and
What month are we talking?
it was January.
Okay.
It was in January, and I remember
Of 76?
76, and I remember being in the student union, and a friend of mine comes running up and goes, "Travis, your league is breaking up." And he showed me something from the New York Times, and it just said that National Lacrosse League announced that they were suspending operations and something like that. And I tell you what, my world just crushed. It just went upside down. And, you know, there was a period of depression because, you know, when you go from the bottom, you get to the top, you work for something you really want. It was really hard to accept, but, you know, it took a while, but you get over that and move on. I wasn't so...
So you were a student when you weren't
Yeah.
playing. What were you doing, Russ?
Well, I injured my heel in the playoffs. I had it fixed up to finish the playoffs. So I was limping around.
But were you working at something
No,
while you were during the
I was an
pro?
iron worker at the time.
Iron worker, okay.
And what happened for me, you know, I've been playing sports my whole life. Every time you got on the floor, whatever you're doing, it was just a game. You just did your best. And if the league folded, to me, the league folded. It was like, play someplace else, go home and play. But you
It's a
gotta
way,
remember.
it's a way of life, but it's, like he said, it's we'll play someplace else.
Right.
But you got to remember
The
that
game, yeah.
the natives in the Six Nations have always played lacrosse.
Yeah.
They've always had a team here, always had a team, always had here. And if you're a junior growing up, you can always play for the senior team.
Right.
Now you look at junior lacrosse in Ontario. How many teams they got? 40?
Probably.
And even the, what do you call it, intermediates, maybe 50 teams. Those guys reach 22. Here's a deck of cards, because that's all you're gonna do. You have no place to play. Very few senior teams. The major guys, they don't go away. And with this offense, defense crap now, they stay and stay and stay. So Indians were lucky. We always had a place to play. And that's what was given to us, the game.
Now, Jim, what were you doing when you weren't, were you at RIT? when
Yeah,
you
I
were-
just,
you were
I
a
just
student as well?
graduated in RIT,
So
yeah.
what were you gonna do if you weren't, you know,
I went to the School of Graphic Arts, so I was going to go into the printing business.
printing business?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was in the printing industry,
Yeah. So you all had three different things going on and,
yeah.
and you had ultimate, I would probably, Travis, been heartbroken. If I,
Well,
like, I like it, like you were saying, you
Yeah.
know, cause
Well, it's
to
something
have what
always-
you described as that year before, were like,
Yeah.
probably one of the best years of your life, you know,
Oh, for sure.
in a lot of ways, you
But
know.
in 1976, I played for Valleyfield, Quebec. I got on a team, and I would come down there and play. 77, I played a little with Akwesasne, and that team ended up going and winning. You ended up
Yeah,
joining
I
that
went-
team in
they picked-
77.
They picked me up to go with them. I was playing 77 in Valleyfield,
Yeah.
and we went out, we went out west.
I hurt my knee, and I had an operation on my knee in November. In November, and I hurt my knee three times that year, and all in playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
And the last one, I was playing a field game, kind of a pickup field game in Liverpool. It was some kind of Lafayette playing somebody else, but it was just a game for fun and exhibition. I just happened to jump up and I landed and didn't get hit or anything, and boom, my knee just gave way. So I had to have a knee operation. But yeah, it was, but like Russ was saying, there's a place for us to play. I did play after that. I played again with on the Nations, you know, and I played until I was 50 years old. I didn't play every year, but you know, when you make a big comeback at 45 years old, it's
Not as fast either.
but it was just strictly, we started a new program where I was working, a new lacrosse program, and they needed players, and I said, all right, I'll play, and I did. it was a struggle, but it was still fun. And, you know, but it was never the same as playing at the highest level. I mean, and you miss your friends. And I'm going to tell you something, Jim. This is like the first time in 48 years that we sat together. We haven't sat together since we won the championship. That's the
Cotton
truth.
champagne, I mean,
Oh, we had a blast, though. And again, one thing I'd like to people to know, and maybe I said this before, I can't remember, but we never really had minor lacrosse, and so we never really benefited from that. But we still played within our groups, within our nations, within our tribes. And again, it's all about the individual. It's what you want, how good you want to be. It's you're limited by your own visions and your own aspirations, but it's a great, great game. It's just our game. And
So, lots happening with the game right now. You know, like what's come out in the last half year with the Olympics, 2028 in LA, and just wondered, you know, what you think of all this happening, I guess, you know, with the Olympics and.
Well, you got two powerhouses, Canada and the U.S., you know, and the natives will always be number 3, you know, there's no other foreign country that's gonna beat them, so they're just not deep enough to compete with the
numbers kill us.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the Japanese and the
Jamaicans.
Jamaicans,
They're
they're
coming.
coming
Australia's playing a lot.
because this game that's going to be played at the Olympics is a real hybrid game.
Yeah.
So it's
Aren't
it's
the
a game.
Japanese too little?
Oh, that's not now.
No,
Not
that's a
now.
joke.
That's post World War II. When
Yeah,
the diet
no.
wasn't good, you know.
No, it's going to be just fantastic. I'm looking forward to watching it, and I'd like to, for any of the natives watching, get yourselves in shape, boys, because you got to run.
Yeah.
You've got to run. That's the name of this game.
Now there's over 100 countries playing the game. It's unbelievable that
It's
you know,
fabulous.
it's worldwide.
The reason is the availability of the plastic stick.
Right.
And, well, we all use wooden sticks.
Yeah.
So we know you have to treat that baby with tender loving care.
Yeah.
You gotta know what to do, you have to
sleep
know how
with
to
it.
fix it.
Yeah.
As it is right now, you can go to Dick's, get that, use that evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how it's going to all the other countries.
Yeah.
Because there's athletes all over the world.
Yeah.
And it's what I call lacrosse is a gift to the world.
Yeah. It's the only team game that's spiritual
Mhm.
in the world. You know, there's Zen stuff like archery and martial
Yeah.
arts. That's individual stuff with spiritualism beside it.
You know
Players
what?
game's the only team game that.
You know, Russ offered up this little assessment there about his sticks and giving it the tender loving
Yes.
care. I played on his line. I watched him break about 30 sticks over people in
That
the
sounds like
second
tough,
year.
that sounds like
That's
tough,
tender
tough
loving
love.
care.
That's tough love.
Yeah, there it is.
It was a teaching tool. Teach you not to come over here. If you came over here, you'll pay for something. Probably my stick sometimes, but you're gonna get it just as well. You know, it was like, you know, Jimmy could score a bit, Travis could score like crazy. I played defense, so I had to use my brain. I know Travis.
Is
I
it
know
true
Jimmy.
that you didn't have a head on your stick? It was just the shaft? That's what I heard. That was a rumor.
Well,
That's from around the league, huh?
you had to have something to slash it, so you had the wood wall on your stick.
It was wood though, it wasn't iron? Like it just wasn't an iron bar?
Hey, those whining babies might say it was metal.
It's like
Ironwood.
it's like an art using that thing sometimes. You know how to make it last.
You know, and I'd like to just give a little Jim Bishop story. When I was, I think in 1973, Russ was playing for Onondaga, and they played a team from Baltimore at the War Memorial in Syracuse. It was a very, very vicious game.
Yeah.
Onondaga won that game.
Sorry, what year was that?
1973, before the Pro League. And I
And
think
that was a non-native team from Baltimore?
a non-native team
That
came
came
up.
up?
Yes, they played there. It was a really, really, really rough game. So they were going to return the game, but they had the playoffs at the NALA, so they didn't return the game. And this was like early September, I think, or late August, and they're in the playoffs. So they got a group of guys, which I was one of the guys that went up and played, and we go to play in the Baltimore Civic Center. And there were, I don't know, 20 players on the other team. But these college kids, boy, they were just waiting for us. They were going to get their revenge, and they did.
Really?
Yeah, we got a group of guys, and a lot of guys were way out of shape. But it was a plane ride down to Baltimore, expense paid, free trip to Baltimore. We played there, and we got blitzed. But as the game started, I remember that Jim Bishop was one of the people announcing at the game, and he announced the players coming out on the floor, and he says, and here's Travis Cook, or whatever Travis Cook, one of the greats of box lacrosse. And we went out there and got totally destroyed.
Really?
And my ego, I mean, I just was on the floor. But I recognized that before we started, we were in trouble. They were ready to roll, boy, and they rolled us up pretty good. So then, fast forward a few years later, 1977, they had the Akwesasne won, I think, the silver medal at the President's Cup. They had a dinner, and Ernie Mitchell and Bruce Rompoint were part of it, and Jim Bishop comes down. And I don't know, Jim, did you make it to that or not?
No.
No, you didn't make it, okay. So anyhow, I went to it because I was on the team, but I had gotten hurt playing, and I had a knee operation. So I go to the banquet, season-ending banquet. Jim Bishop is the featured speaker. They're giving awards. Call me up. I go up to get my award, and Jim Bishop is there, and he said, we shook hands, and he said, Travis, we had nobody that could guard you in the playoffs in Montreal, and that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And but we never spoke. I would say between us, we probably spoke 10 or 12 words. That's it. I just never really had the opportunity to meet and to be social with him, but I know he commanded a lot of respect, and he guided Oshawa and whatever teams he was involved
Seven
with.
straight years.
Yeah, he was the father that, him and Kels were the
They
innovators.
Yes.
We
And
made
then-
them both.
We beat them both.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, then why we took out Long Island, and then we came back and got Montreal.
Took out-
Took out Bishop.
We took out their guys, and our coach kind of went uncelebrated. But I can tell you, we
Who was that?
Mito Martinello
Oh, Mito, okay,
from
yeah,
Windsor.
yeah.
But you know, we had these. We would have team meetings. What the heck? Why can't we get it together? And I was always complaining that we never did any plays and stuff like that. But I can tell you one thing that he did for us is got us in super condition.
Yeah.
We were drilled to death.
Yeah.
We drilled. But I think as we started to improve and make advances, we just really took our physical fitness level to the next, to the highest levels, and we were able to win. I think because we were fit. Number one, we were rough, but we just had stamina.
We had a good fast break system that would get us up the floor and get goals.
My God.
Yeah. It was
And then-
right down to a science.
Then they had to come down our end, and
Yeah,
then
then
we
they-
just dished
then
it out. We
yeah.
just
If you
gave
came
them
down
stuff
our
like
end, you
that.
paid.
We had Larry Smeltzer, we got Hall of Fame goaltender, Rick Pala, it just as good as him.
Bobby Allen would always say he didn't like the new way of playing with offense, defense, and because before that, it had its own policing, because you're gonna get the guy
Oh, absolutely.
that just did that to
That to
you
you.
down there. He knew he was gonna receive that down there, so there was respect that came out of that, understanding that, you didn't get away with it,
It was a good part of the game too, because you had to play around it.
I always liked playing a full game as a
Yeah.
midfielder.
it's a
Like, it was just more fun playing D and O and transition, you know, and. yeah.
When you begin and teach your son to play, you just don't teach him one facet of the game, you know?
No.
You don't just, like in basketball, these kids today, they get a ball, the first thing they do is go find out where that three-point arc is and just start launching them. That's all they want to do.
Right.
Well, in lacrosse, you've got to be able to score and shoot and pass, but you got to play defense
Stop.
too. That's my perception and conception, and it's the best scenario for
And
a
people
lacrosse
who can
player.
stop people are
Yeah.
worth their weight in gold, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You played field lacrosse for Hobart?
yeah, yeah.
So you played that game where 2 guys move and 6 guys stand, or whatever? Four guys stand, 2 guys move.
What's that?
The guy passing this guy's are the only guys moving. The guy behind there is the
It's a
ball
backup,
chaser.
yeah.
So he's out of play, and these guys, one guy stays back. The other guy says, if they try, what totally knows, a skip pass. There was no this in there.
All I knew is that I would bust my ass to bring the ball down the
Give it to
field.
the attacker.
And then our attack was so good, we never saw it. You know, that's what it was, you know, and.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but there's segregation, right?
Yeah.
You've got your responsibility, the coach's
Yeah.
expectation.
Yeah.
You get the ball, run it, you
Yeah.
blast up the side, give it to the
Yeah, get it
attack guy
to like a
and-
Terry Corcoran
Yeah.
or a, you know,
Sure.
a John
That's
Hayes.
That's what I did. I taught all my middies in college is get over the midfield line, know where I am.
I'm not saying, like, we scored, you know.
Go in my direction.
No, we scored, but it's just
Yeah.
a joke, like, you know, the
Sure.
attack's sitting there smoking a butt, waiting for you to come
Yeah.
up the field, you know, that was the joke, you know.
Well, that was how it was, and I think that the game has changed. It's much
different.
more
Okay. yeah.
movement, and
There's
it's
no hit,
beautiful.
there's even no hitting in field lacrosse now.
Watching Notre Dame last year win the championship, they just spread the field, moved the
Yeah.
ball, and guys cutting, and
Yeah,
they ended up.
found it.
Canada got a long way for a long time on a circle offense, just keeping
Yeah.
the middle open and just, you
Right?
know, like a box.
No,
That's it.
Approach, you know.
That's smart.
Yeah,
Because you've got movement
yeah,
and you got these big long sticks going.
yeah, yeah. Window
And
wipers.
it's kind of like, this guy from Syracuse, he scored a lot of goals, but he transferred out this year. I forget where the hell he went. He could shoot, but when I watched him every time he shot like this, or it was like this, all from this point.
Yeah,
That's a smart defense. I just lay that damn hit of the stick right there.
Yeah.
right. You
You-
get to
you
know the
get this-
get to know the tendencies.
You
Yeah.
get this close, your stick is as big as the goal. If it goes out like this, but apparently you don't watch tape.
I just remember watching some of the great First Nations players in the field game, NCAA, and what you saw is they were always moving without the ball, and just, you know, smart moving to open space, and always, you know, like I just watched, you know, you saw, you know, how to play the game, you know, because they were always moving and creating space, and whether they got the
Yeah.
goal or somebody else, they were helping make the goal, you know, as a unit, you know, so. But what else do you want to say? Like, you know, do you feel like you've told a story today?
Well, I
Or-
wanted to say just something
Yeah.
about Doug Hayes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think he was a tremendous player. Big, fast, but he was a real gentleman. I think he was not a dirty player, just he had great skill. He only played the second year,
Yeah.
end up with 220 something
Yeah,
points.
he and Durrani came from the West Coast.
Oh
Yes.
my God, they were
Those two came in and they.
just a solid player. And of course, I think John Grant, senior, just so skilled, just had those fakes and had the backhand, and you know, he was so hard to stop. And then I can imagine what the goalie would think, because here's a guy 6'6" shooting down.
And a backhand besides.
He was just
John had one of the big goals in
Yeah.
the gold medal game in '78.
Yeah, his backhand was better than most guys' forehand.
Oh, he's a magician, you
Yeah.
know? And then you have Doug Hayes, I remember him, it was like a freight train. You know, just practicing with him and seeing him in the games, there wasn't really dodging.
Beeline for the goal. The beeline for the goal.
Straight
yeah.
line, you know, just but a real, you know, a real gentleman, as you say. And
You had a chance to speak to the Benedict family earlier?
yeah,
Well, Mike Benedict I played with for many years, and
yeah,
one of the things I was so remarkable of him, he had basically two really good moves. He'd come at a guy, and he'd fake one way, and he'd go around him. He just would put guys to bed doing that.
changing hands or
No, he would just
body
come
shit,
in.
yeah, sure.
just a
Then the
leaning-
next
a
thing
lean,
time
yeah.
he'd come down, he'd fake you, and then he'd just run right over you. I seen more the bottom of players' sneakers because he took them. If I didn't see that 100 times, I didn't see it once. He ran over many people, and it was so entertaining because the fans would just roar in laughter because he embarrassed
Well, he
somebody.
wasn't the biggest guy, right?
No, he
he
wasn't.
was solid.
But he was able to run right
Oh,
over
he was
guys.
fast, but he was
Yeah.
a tremendous leader, and he
Yeah.
was just a great, great individual, a great man. I really,
We were talking with Owen, and I guess they grew up like brothers pretty well,
Uh-huh.
you know, even though they're cousins, you know, but they grew up like brothers.
I think that was a lot of pleasure in the game is when we went someplace, you got to see other players and what they did, you know. And I think I learned half my moves by watching other guys do it.
Oh,
Then you
sure.
take it with you and put it in your repertoire, you know, and then it's your move.
When he first came to Syracuse, you know, they wanted to see in our league play. The guys show because we're still playing. And some of those guys referred to our league as the beer league. We didn't get paid.
Right,
They got paid. Senior A guys, ching, ching, ching.
yeah.
Junior A guys, ching, ching, ching. Here, got any beer after the game? That was it. So we had it, they called it the beer league. But in the finals of the championship in '74, all the brown faces were now drinking champagne.
amen.
Yeah,
I think one of the big things that I think we're all proud of is when we went to the finals for Quebec City, we were up against Montreal. There were 3 natives on our team, and there were 3 natives on their team. The only 2 teams that had any influence of native players. And I think we all carried our teams to the finals.
you just think about the perfect storm for that championship.
Oh, it was.
Montreal, Quebec,
Oh, yeah.
you know, just, you know, like that's why, you know, that was so, there should be a movie made on just that season.
It was a
You
perfect
know,
storm for us just getting in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because first of all, the pro league was, yeah, even had a few like RDC camp, like non-box players playing,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, guys like that. And then all the Ontario, all the BC, it
Yeah.
was nowhere, maybe a few Quebec pure players, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing ever kind of showcased that before, you know?
Well, they had Ernie Mitchell and Bruce Roundpoint and Billy Squires. Those are their 3 dominant players. They had a couple other guys that were on their taxi
Next.
squad or something like that, but they were their
The
main
regulars.
players. And Bruce was just a brute. He
Yeah.
could cross-check. You knew when you were running the middle, you better make sure.
Their version of
You
Russ.
be ready, yeah. Their version of Russ. But no, I think Russ commanded a lot of respect. We had a great line with Sanderson, Terry Sanderson, one of the greatest scorers I've ever seen. Going in on a breakaway, I don't think I ever saw him miss.
Wow.
He just had that, he just had
Yeah.
that how. He just knew how to put it in there. And then Jimmy had this shot, we called it the dump. He'd come in, he'd take a
Crisscross.
shot, then he'd come back in. But he would throw that thing, and it would go down at such a severe angle and come up. I swear sometimes I hit the goalie in the butt and then go in. But he had strength and just throw that so hard, and I loved it. I remember being in the penalty box in Maryland, and Jimmy got a breakaway, and I just stood up and I just hollered, the dump. Certainly he comes in, he does it, he
And
scores.
always sent the goalie the other way, because you'd go like this, and he'd
Yeah.
go up to save, and all of a sudden he's looking over here, and you're dumping it in on that side.
Oh man, it was We had such,
Not easy to score on a 4x4 goal
No.
compared
No.
to
You gotta make a
a
move.
6x6. Yeah.
One thing that impressed me was when you play against these guys, you know, game after game, you see them again, and then they do something. And you know you did a good job on them, and they put in a goal, and you went, how the hell did they do that?
They adapted.
Yeah.
They adapted, right?
I gotta tell you about the Quebec team. We're 25 brothers that went to war.
Yeah.
We were tight as heck. And that was the best part of it.
Yeah.
Your
Band
hat's
of
the Caribou,
brothers.
that's the logo back, right?
Yeah.
On your hat right now.
I think the environment had something to do with it because
That
we
was-
couldn't speak French. We were our best
That was
friends.
it.
Yeah.
We were our
Yeah.
best friends.
So your
And plus the
community.
bus trips.
Oh, I never seen guys play cards like that. They'd be playing for, we'd have a 6-hour bus trip
Euchre?
or something, playing
Poker.
euchre. They all came up with the,
AC Doocy.
AC2C.
Play AC Doocy and Turk would lose all his money.
my father used to come up and stay with us, and at the end of the season, a lot of people's leases were ending, and they had no place to stay. They'd come with us. They'd come out. We have these big card games. My dad would fleece those guys. Just, he
Your dad sounds like he loved
played
it.
cards all his life. That guy knew how to.
He loved it as much
Oh
as you
yeah,
got.
he had fun with them, and
Well,
I think they loved
The
my dad.
Sandersons were ducks on a pond.
Yeah.
Could score, but not
Terry
play
loved to
cards.
play too.
And another thing was my dad was neither of Jim and Russ's dad they had passed on, and my dad was alive, and he was kind of like their
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, it took you under your
He
wing.
looked after them and always give them advice, and it's how I felt. That's how I grew up. He was always talking shop, and it was really good for us, I think. So
It's a little hard of hearing,
yeah.
but whenever he's talking, just listen to him because he had some good advice.
Yeah, you gotta listen to guys like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
We're getting old, I gotta take a whiz.
All right, well, that's a good time to take a break.
Okay.
No, that was great. That's perfect. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
knowing just that 2 years, nobody's told it like you guys have just told it, right?
Well,
So-
We're not
We had
bullshitters,
such
that's
fun.
why.
No, we just, we have such a respect, and I think that we were really part of that core group,
Yeah.
coming from the year before to the next, and it was just something special for us because we were kind of like we had provided muscle, and
Yeah.
we provided leadership is what you got to have, and
Yeah.
but we weren't the only ones. Everybody had
Everybody
their turn.
contributed.
Everybody.
On all the
Yeah.
good teams,
Yeah.
Yeah.
everybody contributes.
Goaltending,
Yeah.
we had it in spades.
Yeah.
Every team.
We had one goalie, Rick Power. He played pretty much the majority of the season coming into the playoffs because Larry Smeltzer was trying to find his game. He had lost his agility because he had gained so much weight, and then he gained it all back during the season. And by playoff time, his game was dead on, and he carried us through the playoffs.
Well,
When I think when I was 15, I left here in Akwesasne,
Yeah.
and I went to Lafayette High School, and I lived amongst the Onondaga, and I tell you, I think those were probably some of the most formidable years of my development as a player. I think I learned a lot from them, from my Uncle Louis, living with Clyde and Elfie and Frida and Stephanie,
yeah.
the Jocks family, and
Wasn't Louis the coach too?
yeah, I tell you what,
Yeah.
he really drilled the Onondaga team, who like Jim was saying earlier, they had very small populations, but very competitive
Yeah.
lacrosse. And Louis drilled those guys, and he had such respect and command of that team. They worked really hard. When you played against them, I played with them a little bit, but I played against them too. You're in for a rough night because they
Yeah.
really checked.
And they were mostly all on the Daga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got the most
We had a
out
few
of their,
imports,
Yeah.
Mexicans, I think.
they got the most out of their community, basically. Right? But I remember, Alf, one of the things he's most proud of was that ring as general manager for
Oh,
the
yeah.
Redhawks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
20
putting that
20.
together, like that was, you know, a bit, you know, because that was a different set of skills than making sticks, you know, but building
Yeah.
a
Well, he loved the-
championship team, you know?
He loved the management part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was very proud of that.
Yes.
He said, I have organizational skills, and
yeah,
he really could put it to use. But he really made a good quality stick and put his heart
oh,
and
God.
soul into it.
But at any rate,
I have one,
Yeah.
one thing that you could do for me. You mentioned Phil Arnold.
yeah,
Phil Arnold uses this term of lacrosse as being the little brother of war.
okay.
And I was at a meeting and I told him I took offense to it.
Oh.
And I told him that the game of lacrosse is given to us by the Creator. He would not give us a game to practice war against each other.
It's a medicine game.
No, it's not the medicine game. Medicine game is a different entity.
Well, inherent in the game.
And he was pissed.
Oh,
but-
was he?
But because he's a Native American Studies teacher.
Yeah.
And he brought that out and I thought, so I told him how I thought about it, and he agreed to it. But if it's in your thing, once you put something in paper, it's history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take
it's-
the eraser and take that right the hell out.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, Jim and Travis and Russ, just really appreciate you coming all the way up here. And Jim, you came from Florida
Yeah.
for this.
I'm glad we did it.
You know, and thank
brought
you
good
for
weather.
sharing these stories. Like these are stories that people are going to need to know later
Yeah.
on, and we've got them down now. And really appreciate you coming. So thank you, Yahweh.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yo.
for giving us this opportunity because we wouldn't have done this if it weren't for you. It's nice
Yeah.
to get together.
48 years. That's the last time we sat together, really.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
thank you.
Yep. Thanks again.
It's been a great.
I hope you get to enjoy some more time.
Oh, we
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
We'll try.
Yeah.
You know,
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.